And it gives me great pleasure today to introduce Rebecca Beam. She is founder and CEO of Zavikon. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate you having me. I was so excited when I spoke with Nathan and he gave me the opportunity to come and speak with you guys today. I know Diane and I just met Autumn, so it's nice to meet you guys. I do have like a little presentation that I can show. It's here, I'll share my, can I share my screen? It's disabled.
Yes. Oh, let me try again. Yeah, try again.
Okay.
Oh,
Right. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Am I in presentation mode? Can you see it? Slideshow. Play from start. Okay. There we go. So I am the founder and CEO of Zavikon, and Zavikon is an employment agency.
Oh wait, it's stuck. Sorry, it's showing the white screen.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You might do it the old-fashioned way. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. You know what? I'm gonna skip the presentation.
Okay.
I'm just going to talk to you guys, which is what I really wanted to do altogether.
Yep, perfect. Okay, go ahead.
However, can you see me? Because I can't get out of the presentation mode. Are you able to see me?
Because you'll see me.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm Rebecca Beam and I'm founder and CEO of Zavikon. And so Zavikon, what we focus on is helping individuals with disabilities and those who are neurodivergent navigate career-oriented employment. So we work with a lot of people from every range of job. I'll give you a little bit about my background and why I chose to start Zavikon. So in 2013, historically, my background was in recruiting, and I was a technology recruiter for almost 25 years. In 2013, I was given the opportunity to join a little organization, startup called MindSpark, where we built a training program for individuals on the spectrum to learn testing and software automation, software testing and software testing automation. So in 2018, we built the company up. We sold it to a company called Auticon. I don't know if any of you have heard about Auticon, but Auticon is a German company who focuses on placing or hiring technologists on the spectrum, and then they consult them out to companies. And I ran that company and grew it here in the US for 3 years. And it was really during that time that I realized that there was a missing link in the employment path for individuals who are neurodivergent. Many companies, and Diane can probably attest to this, are really willing to open their doors now to individuals with disabilities and those who are neurodivergent. And some of them just don't know how to go about doing it. And then others don't know how to support properly. There is all this talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, but there's one area that they're really missing out on, and that's disability and neurodiversity. So we are really trying to advocate for disability and neurodiversity to be included in their DE&I efforts. And the way that we're doing that is to help identify great talent, bring them, and help the employer understand their disability or, their neurodiverse condition, and to be able to put a prescription for success. We support and educate. We believe that it all starts with education. So we educate the employer and the coworkers on how to effectively work with the individual. We come from a very strength-based perspective because we don't believe that it's a deficit-based. I personally believe that every single human being needs an accommodation in the workplace. I was a single mom raising 2 kids, and I needed to go home and get them snacks and get them onto their homework and then go back to work. That was an accommodation. I broke my leg. I needed accommodations when I broke my leg, and I had to, figure out how I was going to work, with a scooter. Those are all accommodations. So if employers can embrace the accommodation aspect as a strengths-based offering versus a deficit-based offering, it's also going to make happier and healthier employees and work environments. So that's really what we're striving for at Zavikon. I am diagnosed with autism level 1 and ADHD. I was diagnosed in adulthood, and it was really a cathartic and change for me, because it helped me really understand a lot about the things that I had gone through, not only as a child, but as an adult in the working world, and some of the challenges that I personally experienced. My path to getting diagnosis was based off of extreme anxiety. And so I needed to get hold of it. It was very hard, and it was getting to a point where I felt it was going to be critical. So I went and I sought help, and I went through a lot of testing, not even ever realizing that this might be, ADHD, I understood, but then when I went through the testing and I was diagnosed with autism, it really made a lot of things make sense in my life. So I am extremely passionate about what I'm doing. I've spent my entire career helping others in their career. I try to offer advice, and wherever I can, if I don't know an answer to something, I really try to do the research and find out. The other thing that Zavikon is offering is workplace readiness training. I was just telling Nathan, I'm super excited. We're going to start a research project with Vanderbilt with some AI VR technology for interview simulation to help people interview better, specifically focused on autism. So that's a little bit about me. I love this space. I think that employers get so many benefits from hiring individuals who are neurodivergent. And I really feel that employers, the benefit of having somebody who thinks differently in their workplace is only going to add benefit to the way they solve problems. And if they really want to go about things in a collective intelligence way, then they're going to include different types of thinkers in the pool of employees. So that's enough about me. I'm here to answer questions. Nathan brought to me that there was a lot of, questions about, do I disclose, or how do I disclose, or, do I do it before? Do I do it in the interview? It's a really complex question. I'm not going to pretend like I have the answer, because I myself worked for an organization that was geared towards autism. And when I disclosed my diagnosis, I didn't feel like it was taken well. So, it's a complicated, subject, but I definitely don't mind offering my insight on how I think people should go about certain things. So if you have questions, please ask me, because I'm going to try to impart any wisdom that I have for this group.
Great, Rebecca. That's really awesome, Rebecca. Thank you. So first question in the chat, are there any resume prep tools out there that could be beneficial to those on the spectrum?
Resume preparation tools?
Yep.
It's interesting. So, we're dealing with a lot of algorithms out there when you're applying for jobs. And I think that's one of the first things that employers need to start embracing. And I think the ones that are more progressive, like IBM and EY and some of the are really changing the way that they even structured their job requisitions and their job descriptions. so that when people apply, they can actually show their talents and skills. In terms of resume software, building it, I don't know, but I do know that there are services out there that you can pay and they'll turn around a resume for you in short order. Everybody, you know, from recruiters to employers are all going to have their different opinions on how they want to see a resume structured. I think it depends on the type of job you're going for. If you're going for a technology job, you definitely want to put your technology experience in there so that people will understand exactly what you've done. I work with a lot of technologists, and the overarching thing is like, well, have you managed people, or what technologies have you used? Is this all? Did you forget something? So offering that overview of the technologies that you have experience with, but also offering to the, them how you, because most of this group you're all secure cybersecurity. So, offering how you utilize those technologies, and keeping it in a pretty simple format. So a lot of these systems, when you upload your resume anyway, it just messes up the format. So just keep it in a very structured, simple, easy to read format. And I'm always willing to look at resumes and give you an opinion.
Right. So everyone, feel free to ask questions. But one question I would have for you, Rebecca, that some might be thinking about is, how would you go about identifying a neurodiverse friendly employer? Because sadly, the negative stigma that exists around neurodiversity, it is very prevalent, where many companies will still discriminate. So how would you go about identifying a neurodiverse friendly employer?
It's one of those things that, a lot of organizations are definitely embracing, and you can Google and look up the employers. But also, if you look at Disability in their website, there's different organizations that are asking businesses to sign charters to include, and I'm using the word disability here because many of the employers are, using the word disability. I know that there's a difference between being neurodiverse and being disabled. Some people who are neurodiverse consider themselves disabled, others do not. So I don't want to complicate the two. So just for tonality here, if I use disabled, I'm just talking in a greater term for how the employers look at it. Not everybody defines, out neurodiversity. So, but there's a lot of organizations that are asking companies to sign charters that they're going to include and make it safe for individuals to be employed with them. I would target those companies. Disability in, that's the index of the companies that have passed a certain criteria of hiring and opening their doors. That's a good place to look for companies that are open. There's another one called, and it's escaping me. Diane, maybe help me here. It's not the Fabulous 500 or the something 500. But there are sites that you can go on, and if you Google companies that are open to hiring people, those are the companies I would start with. But there are some top leaders: IBM, Ernst & Young, SAP. I think they've had some struggles with their program, but they're making the changes necessary to make it better. And I think the other thing, as an employee, that's really important to understand and be mindful of is that a lot of these companies are just starting their journey, and they're gonna make mistakes, and they're gonna learn from those mistakes, and they're gonna have to pivot. And I think that when you get into the organizations, if you can have a voice in how to help them and guide them, that's the best, because they really need the help to know how to do it right. And I think a lot of the organizations that have started programs and have made mistakes have gotten extreme criticism, and that's not necessarily the way, we along with them need to have a growth mentality for them to help them build and get it right. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, and we have another question in chat. Are there any accommodations employers should be prepared to make for neurodiverse employees?
Well, everybody's different, right? So everybody has different accommodation needs. I find that most employers are open to accommodation. It's just the way, you have to go about and be, ask them. And again, I'm going to say, when you ask for accommodation, come at it from a strengths-based perspective. I'm better at work if I have noise canceling headphones, or if I am in a quieter part of the office. I'm better at work if my back is to, the door, or whatever it is. And so make those requests, because again, every single solitary person needs accommodation in the workplace. If people were more active in asking for those accommodations for themselves, people would be more effective and not struggling, no matter who you are.
That's a good point. And I think the sad truth is many people are not even aware of the accommodations that are even available. Like, I'm neurodiverse, I'm openly neurodiverse with ADHD and autism, and even I'm not aware of the full list of accommodations. Like, do you have a resource or a website that would have a list of all possible accommodations, or the top combination? Sorry, the top accommodations?
I don't, but I can put I can put a list together for sure of that. But the other thing that's really cool, and I'm starting my journey as an entrepreneur in this area, and I meet the neatest people. I meet them all over the country, and so many people are doing things to try to make life better for individuals on the spectrum. The problem is they're all over the place, and nobody's coming together under one directory. So I've really been trying to put a focus on technology and assistive technology for people, whether it's keeping your schedule straight, or alarms. We can all set alarms on our phone, but we forget to set an alarm if you can't, so there's technologies that actually you can plug everything in and it'll automatically do all these things for you. And I'm trying to formulate a list of those things. But I would say, in terms of common accommodation, again, noise canceling headphones, a darker space in the office. If you don't like fluorescent lighting, make sure you mention that you prefer to have some type of a lamp. Sitting in quiet spaces. If, some people like a lot of noise and want the hustle and bustle. So letting your employer know exactly what type of environment you're best in is super important, especially if you have sensory issues, because sensory issues can absolutely drive you crazy if you're in an environment that's challenging you. So it's really important to ask for that accommodation. And you don't actually have to use the word accommodation, because I think sometimes HR professionals find that word quite scary. And I'll tell you why. Because it has to be like this interactive process, which is not a bad thing. But if they're managing 1,000 employees, sometimes it is a big thing to them. They're like, oh my gosh, I have this interactive process. What if I forget? What if I do it wrong? What if? Just ask, say, I work better if I have this. Is it possible for me to have this? So you don't have to make it so formal. If it is something that you need on a more formal level, then you do want to use the word accommodation, and you do want it to be an interactive process if it is something much larger than noise canceling headphones. So I'm happy to put together a list of common ones.
Great. And of course, I think for a lot of people, it's very uncomfortable to even ask for accommodation, because then it all comes down to the back to the original question, like whether or not to disclose, because it's like chicken and egg thing. In order to get the accommodation, you need to disclose that you have a condition, which I think a lot of people are just very uncomfortable doing, because I've even seen some heartbreaking stories on social media where some people they cannot get jobs or they cannot stay in their jobs because of this negative stigma of disclosing. How do you feel, and what can be done about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on the type of company you're with. So, I mean, recently, first and foremost, a lot of people do not know or understand neurodiversity or autism. They've heard it, they have this, stigma in their mind or whatever they think of it, but they don't really understand it. And I recently placed somebody at a company, at a finance company, and the individual I placed is on the spectrum. He also has savant syndrome. And, I really got a real understanding about how this organization just had no clue of the things that they needed to do to help him. But when we went in and educated them, they embraced that. They embraced that knowledge. So, if you're going to disclose it, be willing to explain it. It's like we all know a bit about our diagnosis. We all know a bit about how it impacts us. So if you're going to disclose it, be willing to educate the person on the end about how it impacts you. That's because if you just say I'm autistic and they don't understand what that is, then they're going to be like, if you say I'm autistic and this is how it impacts me, I'm an incredibly effective worker, but there's just a few things that are going to help me in the workplace. And if you want to know more about it, I can certainly explain all of it to you. People are eager for knowledge. It was interesting because when we went in to train this company, we were in a conference room with like 5 people, the manager, some coworkers, and we were really going through everything. And I broke it down, on a granular level. And then I broke it down how it impacted the person that they were hiring on a granular level. But it was interesting because as we were going, one lady stopped me and she started crying. And I said, what's going on? She said, you educated me so much about this. My daughter's 5 and nonverbal, and we're getting ready to go through all the testing. And I had no idea what I was starting. And now I feel a little bit better because I understand now what I'm going to be talking about. It touched me so deeply. So that's what I'm saying. It's like people need to be educated and you can be the conduit.
Absolutely. That's really awesome, Rebecca. Well, I got another question. So during the process of applying for a job, they often have to fill out a form like the voluntary my slurred speech. It's a voluntary self-identification of disability. So one question I just received is, should you answer that honestly? Like if you have, like say, autism, is it like, do you feel like, is it okay to lie about it? Say, no, I don't have it. Like,
I don't,
how do you feel?
I mean, I think if a company is asking you, that's just one step to being open. I mean, there are many organizations out there who are held to having a percentage of their employees being those with disabilities. And that's why they're asking the question. I understand that there could be bad experiences from filling one of those out, but not every company is going to have you're going to have a bad experience with. I'd be interested to know if any of you have filled that out and had a bad experience. But we are, when people apply to our organization, because of what we do ask for people to fill that out, and then to also give us the permission to disclose. If somebody says, no, I don't want you to disclose, that's fine. We'll continue to work with them. That's not a problem. But the type of work we do and the type of education we do, it's important that we can. So I do encourage people to fill that out, but I would be interested to find out if any of you have had a bad experience filling that out.
But you know, that's very insightful, Rebecca, because you're absolutely right. Many companies will have ratios that, so in some ways it's in your best interest in some ways to mark off, yes, I do have a disability. Okay,
Yeah.
and sorry, someone else speaking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, it's Diane. I just had a thought on that someone had shared with me, that if you disclose, which I also encourage, Rebecca, when I'm talking with people, but it is definitely a personal choice. But if you disclose and you don't get the job, or there's a concern with that, I think in the long run, if you get the job and you go there and they're not neurodivergent friendly, it's not going to be a good experience. And you're not going to be able to be yourself at that company. And so you're probably not going to be performing your best, and you're not going to feel good about it. So in the long run, I think by disclosing and finding out how the company reacts in the interview and that phase will save you a lot of time and maybe heartache and bad experiences by saying it up front. And if they embrace you, great, then it's a great place for you to go. And if they don't, then it probably wouldn't have been a great place for you to work. So better to find out earlier than later.
Great.
I have kind of a different question. So for whatever reason, my company that prides ourselves in diversity and inclusion isn't on any of these websites that I've seen today. And, you know, we've had like Autism Awareness Month as a thing, and articles that say, you know, neurodiversity as a superpower, you know, so it looks, you know, all of the things, right? But like right now, as we're looking to go back into the office and into the hybrid experience, like I'm kind of looking at it like this is our time to kind of redefine. And so what I'm looking for is resources from you guys, because I am that like extroverted introvert that's going to get up in front of, you know, the cast of thousands and be like, this is what we need. But I need the resources to do it. And you know, like I had to have some conversations with my boss. I just changed positions like maybe 6 months ago, and we had to talk about how like checklists or I don't know, some sort of spreadsheet update thing just didn't really work for me. But they were, you know, they loved it. But I think that's really why I joined today, is because I really want to help this move forward. And I really want to understand kind of what each of us can do within our current orgs to help.
Yeah, so does your organization have employee resource groups or business resource groups? Yeah, so I mean, I think that's one of the most impactful ways. And you know, I don't know what your level is in the organization, but you know, if you need to go out and find a sponsor, I think what I have seen in organizations is it takes the right sponsor to really propel it. And then you can get a stronger voice, and then you get budget and you brand it, and it grows, you know, organically. Because the thing is you're obviously with a large company, and you know, it impacts people in so many different ways, whether you are neurodivergent or you're a parent who has a child who is neurodivergent, or a family member, or you're a caregiver of some sort. You know, these ERG groups are so impactful because it brings like-minded people together, and then it just grows. And then this is where Zavicon comes in, you know, find a group that is willing to hire. and to bring people in and support them in the appropriate way, and make it a safe place. So, that's where it starts, I think, with most organizations, is really getting active in your ERG. I like the fact that you're loud and you'll assert yourself in saying this is very important, and you just got to keep doing that. And it'll grow. It will grow. The other thing, that is really important is that if your organization understands that they'll get visibility from, the impact that they're making, and they can be part of the disability and they can be, I'm going to find the other group that I cannot for the life of me think of right now, but they can be part of these organizations, and they can be a voice at the table of neurodiversity at work and that type of thing. It's important that they understand that there's something in it for them. They can join these other groups, and they can qualify in these other groups and learn from them and get even better at it. So I believe in ERGs and BRGs.
Yep, that's a great question. And I echo that, Rebecca. So my current employer, they do have DiversityERGs, and it feels kind of like this. It's a safe space, and quite honestly, it does make a difference. And just having the support and being like part of a tribe where there are other people just like us, and it does feel very comforting. It kind of makes the chaos every life a little bit more bearable and more
and it's survive not only that. It's not only that people like you, it's people you can help.
Yes, absolutely.
Like we all want to help others. And, if you have a parent of a child who's nonverbal and they're working side by side with you and they see hope for their child, they have other parents that they can get resources from. It's just very powerful. So coming together as a group in an organization that's large and being that voice, and it'll grow. It'll grow. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, Emily, if you keep talking about it, you'll make it happen.
We started a group in April. So we have actually autistic group. We have an actually neurodivergent group, which are private. We have our global BRG, business resource group. And then we started a new group for families and caregivers. And that's grown exponentially since April. So that's just a separate Slack channel for family, moms, dads, family members, caregivers. And it's all the conversations on that topic, right? So it's wonderful because people they just, post a concern or an issue or a question. And Autumn, I think you watch that channel and respond. But you get 5 or 10 people to say, I have the same problem, which makes you feel better, right? That someone else is experiencing that. And I've tried this, or I've tried that, or here's a book, or here's a resource, right? And people, like you said, are really willing to help and share information.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I got another question that came in. I think another biggie is going to be the whole idea of getting tested, evaluated, and diagnosed. Because I think many of us know that women in particular they go under the radar, so to speak, and they are least likely to get diagnosed. Because in our society, a lot of people just assume it's a condition. Neurodiversity is a condition that affects only men, so there's that stigma. So as a result, many women sadly they suffer alone, just thinking like, what's wrong with me? So I had this great question that came in that asked, can you recommend any resources to how would you go about getting diagnosed with like autism or ADHD?
Yeah, so you have to stay on top of what's going out there. You have to continue to Google it. Like, for example, like Vanderbilt was just doing a program where they were doing free diagnosis. But I think when Nathan and I were talking last, we were looking to see if that was still happening. And it didn't look like they were taking more applicants, but I would definitely keep your eye on the Frist Center for autism innovation at Vanderbilt because they were doing it. I personally received my diagnosis through Kaiser, and it was shocking because it was 100% free. And the person that I ended up going to about my anxiety disorder was actually one of the foremost authorities on autism diagnosis. He'd written many books on it, and he understood diagnosis in women. And I personally think I got really lucky.
That's great, Rebecca. I'll have to ask you because I'm in Kaiser too. Was it the Woodland Hills location?
No.
Yeah?
I went and saw
Did you
him
go-
in Sylmar.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
I don't have the name off the top of my head, but I can get you the name and I'll give it
Yeah.
to you, and I'll
Okay.
the book.
Yeah,
and-
that's
Yeah.
great. Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Overall,
it was
but overall, it is difficult. Like from my experience, when I was living in California, I had a very hard time finding someone to do an adult autism diagnosis and testing because the resources are there for children to help children, but adults is very hard. But fortunately, I live in Colorado, so there's a little bit more resources here. So I was able to finally get my diagnosis in January, but there's that. And I think the other big barrier for a lot of people is insurance. A lot of times insurance will not cover an adult autism testing and diagnosis. So besides the programs you mentioned, Rebecca, what other resources or whatnot would you recommend?
Okay, so the Department of Rehabilitation is a resource. You can go through the Department of Rehabilitation and you can get a diagnosis. Is it easy? You're going to have to go through a lot of paperwork and being assertive and making sure that you're pushing. You may have to talk to 20 different people before you get it, but you can go through Department of Rehabilitation. It can happen. When you're dealing with in California, I don't know where everybody's from, but in California, when you're dealing with the regional centers, it's pretty difficult. If you have a college degree or you show that you're functional in society and you're able to work, they really are not going to take you in as a client. But the Department of Rehabilitation, you can push and you can get the diagnosis. Of course, there are private pay opportunities. Again, universities that are doing studies on adults, you might find some free resources there. But you have to be Googling and looking and, trying to find it. If there's a way I can continue to communicate with this group, I can always just email Nathan or whatever if I see these opportunities, because we are looking for them all the time so that we can let people know. I'm part of Autism Women's Alliance, and in that alliance, we look for as many resources as we possibly can get. Because there are many women in the alliance that are self-diagnosed and are seeking their diagnosis. So we share that information. And if I hear of any opportunities, I'll definitely share it with you, Nathan, and you can spread it to the group.
Absolutely.
I will say one more thing. A lot of healthcare companies look at autism as a mental health disorder. So right now during COVID, they take mental health very seriously. So if you're going to push for your diagnosis, right now is the time, because if you go in there and you say, I'm having incredible anxiety, that, they are going to offer you those services. And so if you can get in and start the discussion with someone, then you are more likely to get referred to keep going to figure out what's going on. That's how I got my diagnosis. I had no idea I was going down this path. I just knew I was struggling. I could not, there were days I couldn't breathe when it was just like so bad. My anxiety was so debilitating. And to the outside world, I think I covered it up pretty well, but inside I was dying, you know, and I had to do something about it. So it was affecting my health. And that's when I went down this journey. And it was really interesting and very fascinating. And I feel very blessed.
Cool. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh yeah, so I was just going to share kind of how I went down my path, if that's all right. So I had strongly suspected that I might be autistic, and I started looking for information from other autistic women, you know, particularly like Yosemite Sam and Samantha Kraft has a really good checklist out there. That's a really good thing. And, you know, this is gender agnostic. This affects anybody regardless of their assigned or current gender. So, you know, I just started doing research on it and started recognizing, you know, a lot of things that resonated with me. And, you know, it sort of became a special interest. So I like taught myself how to diagnose it. And then I taught my diagnostician how to diagnose it. But what I did was I went around and sent emails off to a few different diagnosticians that were on Psychology Today that listed, you know, autism and Asperger's. Obviously Asperger's is an outdated term, but I just asked around, you know, hey, do you have any experience working with women on the spectrum? And more importantly, do you have any experience diagnosing women on the spectrum? And are you qualified to diagnose? And, you know, getting those questions out of the way up front, they shouldn't, as far as I know, they shouldn't ask you for a consultation to answer those types of questions. So that's a really good way to sort of reach out ahead of time and make sure that you're going down the right path with somebody that can actually help you, and ideally that knows about it. But, you know, again, I taught my diagnostician after the fact told me, well, you've taught me more about this than I learned in 11 years of school. So
Yeah.
And you know what, you brought up an interesting point, Tom, even the whole idea of diagnosis, that's very controversial in the community. I even met some people who are very militant saying you cannot say you're autistic even if you self-diagnose until you get a formal medical diagnosis. So it's very controversial. But I want to get from Rebecca and anyone else who wants to share, like, how do you feel like if you take those tests like Yosemite Sam and you score high, is that enough for you to claim that you're autistic and ask for accommodations?
I believe it's a personal thing. And I believe that if you feel like you're on the spectrum and you have self-diagnosed, then companies should recognize that, you know, period. It's pretty black and white for me.
I agree.
I don't think there's any gray area there.
Yep, I completely agree.
I'm older. And so when I was growing up, you know, I definitely had challenges, and I was tested and sent to universities to figure out what the heck was wrong with me. But I was not diagnosed, right? So for someone my age, it was, you know, and the fact that I was, you know, a girl, I wasn't, the chances of me being diagnosed was little to none. So, and now, you know, for people our age, it's a fortune. You know, again, I feel like I got lucky. So, you know, I'm never going to say to somebody who hasn't even had the opportunity to explore and maybe doesn't have the ability, but yet they feel it, they know, you know, that I'm not going to question that. I mean, who are we to question how somebody feels about how they're wired?
Totally agree. Oh, someone wants. Yep. So who wants to? Yep. Go ahead and talk. Go ahead. Don't be shy.
Just gonna add. So autism is diagnosed depending on where you live, of course, whether you're using the ICD or the DSM. In the DSM-5, anyway, the most recent edition, it's diagnosed across a number of domains with a number of criteria in each domain. So if you understand what the diagnostic criteria are, and you've read up on how those diagnostic criteria express in women and or masked autistics versus the classic profile, which is, again, what women tend to experience more on average. You can just jot down your experiences that fit those criteria, and that should be enough to defend your thesis. I mean, obviously some companies are going to want you to go and have like a formal piece of paper from somebody with credentials. But as far as like interpersonal social things, as long as you have done the work and you can show your work and show that you experience these different items under these domains, that should be the end of the discussion.
Yeah, well, that's why
Absolutely.
that's another reason I started Zavikon. I didn't want to be exclusive. I wanted to be inclusive. And so I don't need the formal diagnosis to work with somebody. If somebody comes to me and says, I have a disability or I'm neurodivergent, then I work with them, period. And that's really was very important to me, to be as inclusive as I possibly could to help this community.
Yep, great questions. Keep them coming. Is it anyone else want to share or have any questions?
Where's everybody from? I know Autumn's in Houston. I know where Diane is. Emily, where are you guys? Are we all over the country?
I am in beautiful, sunny Carlsbad, California, which is north of San Diego.
Nice. We
Yeah.
got Phoenix and Boston. Cool. You're on mute, Aaron.
Yep, go ahead, Aaron.
Let's see.
Okay, so Dallas, Texas representing.
Awesome. And we've got Brazil here too.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
I'm from a beach town in North Oregon.
Oh, nice. Okay. Is it smoky there?
No, last year we had the big fire, but no, not on the coast.
Zeta, I'll be up there next week.
In
I'll
Lincoln City?
message you. I was gonna ask, I didn't want to expose what city, but I'm gonna have to look. Is that in the northern part of the coast?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we're doing more of the southern coast next
Got it,
week, but
because
looking forward to it. Yeah,
we
it's
have a
beautiful.
nice vacation rental for you.
Oh, okay.
Plug. Okay, I'm going.
We got North Texas and Baltimore. I've been making a lot of interesting contacts in the Baltimore area, in the autism world. It's very, very interesting. Great contacts in that area. And in businesses as well. Mm-hmm.
By the way, Rebecca, so I think another thing what came to mind is with COVID especially, and for many of us who have neurodiverse conditions, many of us, like I know myself, like I have gone through a lot of depression and anxiety over the past several months, and I often still do. What advice and self-care advice would you have for everyone dealing with depression and anxiety?
Yeah, it's been really tough on many people. You're probably gonna laugh at me, and I just started, so I'm very pleased. Yesterday, I worked out 2 days in a row this week, but I think physical activity is really going to help. Getting out and doing something, whether it's a walk or actually getting very physical, because we do know that exercise raises the endorphins and it does help. And I personally have been kind of ignoring my physical fitness for a little bit too long. And I did this 2 days in a row, and I felt like I was on top of the world. I've had a total mood shift having to do these workouts, so I realize now that I've been really robbing myself. So my answers, be as physical as you can.
Yoga is I'm on mute again, I think.
No,
No,
we can hear you.
Clear.
Okay. Yoga is my outlet because it can be a hectic day. Once you get into your class and just meditate, it makes a world of difference. That and my doctor prescribed Xanax, but I know we're trying to get away from that.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with taking medication if it helps you,
Right.
and that's what you need. I mean, there's, you know, mental health is so important, and you know, that's another thing employers really need to embrace, is erasing those stigmas around mental health and being willing to take care of their employees and listen to them and let them take those breaks when they need to take those breaks, because it you know, it's super important. And again, it lends itself to more effective employees. And I don't care who you are, every single one of us needs mental health break, you know, and it shouldn't be embarrassing to talk about it either. And if you need to go and get medicated, that shouldn't be a problem either.
Well, when I do practice yoga, I find that I don't need any of the medication, because it truly does take you out of your daily hectic routine and just leaves you feeling like you can do anything. It's a good quiet place to recenter yourself.
That's awesome. And I think meditation apps have been very helpful. And if I think, like, I know here in LA, and like especially through Kaiser, the Calm app, they are giving it to people for free. So taking advantage of those apps and taking the time to teach yourself how to meditate and be quiet is super, super important. You know, it'll help. It really will. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yep, absolutely. I think another question that would come to mind is, for many of us, like, day-to-day life can be chaotic. Like, you have work, you have kids, you have all the stuff you see on the news, which can be very depressing. All that just makes getting by each day very hard. And some of it, the ADHD and autism just makes it worse. Where just keeping things organized, keeping things together. What tips would you have for everyone to, like, keep things organized and get through the day?
Well, I mean, one of the things that really helps me, because I do struggle with focus, I'm all over the place, and I make a list. And you know, I have a partner in the business, so we have a stand up every morning where we get together and we chart out our day and we write down the priorities. And I do, if I follow my list, I, you know, do well. I also find proper nutrition is very important. If I don't eat in the morning and have my breakfast, which I'm not a huge breakfast person, but if I do have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I feel more energized during the day, and I feel less frustrated because I'm hungry or whatever. I find that if you do start getting really frustrated or burnt out at their desk, if you're behind a computer, get up and take a little walk. I mean, I hug my dogs. I have 3 of them. So, you know, that's what I get up and I go do, and it's literally 2 minutes and I get back behind my desk. So take those little breaks. Breaks are super important. And if you need to take more frequent breaks during the day and your employer has a problem with that, that's an accommodation that you need to ask for, because frequent breaks can really help you keep your mind on task. And, you know, if you make your list, there are, you know, tools that can help you. Like I said, there's some specific to autism that you can use. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think more of us have had to work harder working from home than we ever worked in the office. If you think about it, when you're in the office, you do get those frequent breaks because somebody may come by your desk, or, you know, you go and you grab your lunch because you have to go out of the office, or you, whatever. We take little breaks.
You don't have that mental disconnect from when you leave the office and, you know, drive home. You're just always there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. You know, try to make your space nice, keep it clean and organized, you know, make it a space where you feel good to be in, like you have your things. You know, a picture on the wall, whatever it is.
Yeah, excellent. And something just came to mind as well. I think Emily, I think you alluded to this. With the big trend now is that companies want people to go back to the office, but many of us, like I myself, I think many of us who are who have neurodiverse conditions, we have gained tremendously, and we're much more productive working from home. So how would you approach and have the conversation with your boss to justify continuing to work from home instead of being forced to go back to the office?
You know, with any other meeting that you're advocating for yourself, you know, you want to go in prepared and you want to give the reasons why. And if you have some measured results of the difference between when you were in the office and then when you were out of the office, if you have those statistics and those numbers, the data, show that. I mean, go in prepared to explain exactly why. The more succinct you are with giving the reasons and helping them understand and advocating here for yourself, and also willing to be flexible a little bit. So maybe they just want you to go into the office 1 day a week, offer up solutions. If you working completely remote is not going to work for them, see if you can say, well, what if I came in 1 day a week? Or what if I came in, you know, 2 half days or whatever it is, you know, think about what might work for you, because different managers work in different ways. I mean, recently I've had so many people say, no, my team is so much more effective and we're never going back. And I've had other managers say, well, we all have to be together in a conference room to make things really happen, to be creative. So it really is personal philosophy from the management. And I think understanding their logic behind it is also, if you can do that in advance before you prepare to speak with them and understanding why they want people in the office, and then you can combat that a little bit in a nice, effective manner, go in prepared.
Great. And one last question just came in. Swendley is asking, are a lot of neurodivergents, do neurodivergents tend to be misanthropes?
Say that again.
Misanthropes. Use it in the chat.
Oh.
I'm trying to look at the definition. Person who avoids
me.
society. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't type because my computer's all messed up. Of course.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Do neurodivergents tend to be misanthropes? And misanthropic means you're a hater of mankind.
No.
Okay.
You
Just
know,
me.
I think you're going to be like, people are people. Some people embrace society. Some people criticize society. Some people, you know, embrace politics. Some people hate politics. And that, I want to say one thing going back to the depression. I stopped watching the news and it has made such an impact on my life because I am very political and I was getting very upset. And it was bleeding into all elements of my life. Like anybody who was near me had to hear about it and they didn't enjoy being around me. So like, you know, that's it. I just shut it off. And now I'm a nicer, less stressed, less anxious person. Maybe not as informed, but I think I'm gonna be okay. I try to be positive about the people around me. I can be quite judgmental at times of people, and I try really to put myself in check when I'm doing that. I think it's a maturity thing. Personally, I try, you know, it's everybody's different, and people come from different, like somebody just said PTSD. Complex PTSD is something that really affects somebody. So their behavior might be coming from the fact that they have complex PSD and they were just triggered. So, you know, I think if we all just flex our compassion muscle, and compassion is something that you achieve and you can work on. We don't necessarily all have the ability to be empathetic, but we all have the ability to be compassionate, and trying to understand the person before you judge them, and is important. I'm not always good at it, but I really am trying.
Okay, and we're just about out of time. And I want to thank Rebecca for all your wonderful insights.
I'm going to put my information here in
Oh
the
yeah, wonderful. Yeah, drop in the chat.
Yeah, so link in with me, email me if you have questions. I'm happy to answer outside of this chat group and just connect up.
Great, wonderful. Okay, and that's it for today, everyone. And thank you for coming. And thank you, Rebecca. That was very insightful. Very
Okay,
insightful.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much,
It was nice
everyone.
being here. Diane, enjoy your vacation.
Okay, take care, everyone. Good
That's what I
night.
learned.
Bye.
Bye.